Hello you baby little dinosaur who randomly clicked on this video right now, because what I'm about to share with you is something really depressing. Because it's not really depressing. Fate. Now you probably may even click off this video already, but you may not believe in this shit. But it's still inevitable, and it's technically everywhere around you where you could find it or where you could see it. Now, most often when people talk about fate, they usually understand this in a religious context, but you believe in a man being at the sky, like looking down on you, and believing in this book, Bible? No. How dare you? You believe in a superior, all-existing consciousness that surrounds the world. But it's actually way more essential and way more common than you would even think it is. Because fate is not necessarily about religion, okay? Here's the main misconception, almost also a necessity. Fate is essentially what we believe when we pursue something meaningful. Now, if you look at life in general and look overall, there won't be anything particularly universally meaningful. It doesn't matter what you pursue, in 1,000 years it wouldn't matter. And there's also nothing that makes something universally meaningful. Meaning is what we often decide for ourselves or own what we want to do with our life. And so to a large extent, as long as it doesn't break moral principles, which is also kind of an act of fate, you could do pretty much anything with your life. But the freedom in of itself is really prohibiting and limiting, which is why we resort for fate. Fate is thinking that by doing the things you do, your life is going to manifest in the right ways, by acting upon a virtue. Fate is essentially the belief in a certain virtue, and this doesn't necessarily have to be God or a supreme duty. It can be just as much as going to work, caring for your family, caring about their success in a business by thinking if you're going to work hard, your life is going to end up being well. And this is a context that a lot of people have a very narrow way of looking at it. It is really intertwined with meaning overall. It is really intertwined with deciding what you want to do, deciding what is good to pursue and deciding what is not good to pursue. Like a lot of things you cannot know about without having proper experience. But you wouldn't decide on acting, on embracing a journey, or doing anything with your life if you just don't start with it, if you just don't have an act of fate, believing this will be the right direction within your life. You cannot know it, but at a certain point, without even having lived, without any context or form of understanding, you somehow get thrown into it. You experience Geworfenheit, as Heidegger, for instance, would call it. But still, and instead of trying to deny it by saying that you only act upon knowledge and understanding, truly try to realize that fate is inevitable in order to have meaning within your life. This doesn't mean that you have to believe in any religious being, but you have to realize that every decision that you decide upon is meaningful has no substantial substance that maintains it. It is made up and there's nothing that's true about it, but it also comes to be necessary for meaning to occur. It's not so much that nihilism will just justify it, even if it's true in its own extent. But if you actually want to get out of nihilism and depression and actually have a fulfilling life with a direction and experiences, you have to decide upon things that you won't understand. You will have to live with things in your life that you won't be able to control. You have to have the capacity to imagine a direction that's even with all the uncertainty, believing that if you act upon certain principles that things are going to work out. Because without it, you won't be able to manage it and control it and even have any sense of satisfaction in life if your very thinking is the root cause, not necessarily root cause, but it essentially leads to being depressed, with being directionless. It's not so much that things are meaningful, but you are in a capacity to make things meaningful. And there are a lot of references, but I'm not trying to make it a religious one, but it's not so much about realizing that we need a reason to act, but more so that the act is what leads to things having reason, some meaning. It is our actions or satisfaction from the process that makes things meaningful. It is our ability to interact with the world and do things that make us feel joy, that makes things meaningful in return. And so you are fully capable of reversing the overall cycle instead of acting upon reason, that you can use action in order to create reason. You can create psychological satisfaction if you learn to control your behavioral satisfaction, that's what you would call it. And this is also from where a lot of our thinking comes to take root. If you are feeling depressed, you have depressed thoughts. It's not so much about logical correctness or what's universal truth. It's mostly that a lot of our states within how we come to manifest within ourselves is also that we'll essentially determine what will be valuable as valuable and true and what's not as valuable and functional as true.